YouTube starts, we'll be good to go live. Going live. There we go. Right. Hello. How is everybody? How's things? How's life? How's the universe? How's everything? Not in that particular order. Just whatever you fancy. How's everybody? Let me check. There we go. Cool. That's working. Nice. Awesome. Hello, Harry. How you doing, man? How's things? Good evening. I hope you're having a great week so far. It's certainly better than last week. It's definitely better than last week. It's not it's not fantastic. Mental health side is still pretty bad, but life goes on. But yeah, I'm doing all right. I have a whole load of stuff in and or coming. I've got a full system coming tomorrow. I've got a pair of graphics cards coming, let's face it, next week. I actually have a load of SteelSeries stuff as well. So I just finished checking out the new SteelSeries Rabble 3 mouse, and then I've got the SteelSeries 1 headset, which is their new sort of entry level. I think it's their setup's a bit weird, and then I have a couple of SteelSeries keyboards. I think it's like the Apex 3 and Apex 5 or something. But yeah, be interesting. Hello, Zaphod Bibelrocks. How you doing, man? How's things? I hate my life. Me too. I struggle for money, but I'm still trying to buy a PC. What components can I cheap out on? So it really depends on your budget, where you are, and if you're exclusively looking to build a gaming PC, or whether you're looking to, say, stream and video edit it, 3D model, game develop, whatever else that's not just gaming. So if you can let me know that, I can narrow down my, pinpoint on what you could actually cheap out on. But the long story short is things you definitely shouldn't cheap out on are a power supply. Get a good one. It doesn't have to be an insane one that's way over spec for your system. It's just as long as it's from a reputable brand. That's the biggest thing, because if you buy a cheap power supply and the power supply dies, it tends to take out literally every other component that's attached to it. And so yeah, that's I wouldn't go for that. With that said, so £1,000 budget mainly for gaming. Awesome. So what I would do is actually whenever a mod called Duragamer, Chris, turns up, he will give you a PC part picker link. That's kind of just what he does. But essentially, for £1,000, I would think that the sort of PC you'd be building, assuming you're talking about building a PC rather than buying a pre-built one. So in terms of the components you would pick there, I would go with a Ryzen 3600 non-X, because you can overclock it yourself. If you really don't want to overclock it yourself, the 3600X isn't all that much more money, but does give you a good amount of performance extra. I would go for a B450 motherboard. MSI do their Tomahawk Max line, which I think is about £100 and is a pretty decent value for money. And is also guaranteed to support third generation Ryzen out of the box. For £1,000, 16 gigs of RAM is more than feasible. If you can get higher speed RAM, so 32 or 3600 megahertz, is the kind of recommend. 3600 is the recommended, but 3200 is mostly good enough. So if you can get that sort of frequency of the RAM, that's a good thing too. And then graphics card in that sort of budget, I think you could get away with a 2060 or 2060 Super, which is more than enough for 1080p gaming with no problems. You can go on the AMD side with an RX 5600 XT. Those are a fantastic value for money right now, although apparently some people have had driver problems. That's not something I've had personally, so I kind of can't attest to that, but those are the options that I would recommend. SSD, definitely recommend you get one. There are a number of great Gen 3 NVMe SSDs, including cheaper ones. I think a good combination would be a WD SN500 500 gig M.2 drive alongside a 1 or 2 terabytes Seagate Barracuda hard drive or WD Blue hard drive. Those would be my recommendations for storage. Case, you can buy whatever you want as long as it fits the motherboard. It doesn't matter. Ryzen's all come with pretty good CPU coolers, especially if you go with 3600X. So you can do that. If you did have a bit of extra money to spare, then you could go with something like a Arctic Freezer 34 Esports Duo. Long name, I know, but still pretty good. And does a very good job of cooling the 3600X. And I think that rounds out the system. I would go with a 500 to 600 watt power supply in that price range. You can get them for 50 to 60 pounds for a decent brand one. EVGA do some really good ones. So yeah, I think that rounds out your system. Misha, yes it is. It is indeed. Zaphod, hey man, I've noticed lately my GPU time is rising from 2 milliseconds above my CPU to above my CPU time to about 4 or 5 milliseconds, putting it double. 2080 Super with a 2700X, any ideas why that would start happening? So when you say your GPU time, do you mean like frame times, or like what are you specifically referring to there? Also, hello Tech215, how you doing? Hello Luca, and hello Ish, how you doing, man? During COD, cool. What do you specifically mean by your GPU time versus CPU time? What do you mean there? Frame time. So a 2 millisecond frame time. And what do you mean CPU time? Like what? I'm confused. Oh god, I forgot it's that way. Way around is it? I think it's. I think that means that you're getting like 500 FPS, right? Yeah, I'm not sure what you're referring to there. I'm not sure what metric you're trying to understand, I suppose. Hello Yanizik, how you doing? Just did a video on it. Great value. Team, love your vids. Nice. Thank you very much. Is he talking about network latency? Well, he's talking about GPU time versus CPU time, so I'm not sure. Is the RTX 2070 Super and the 2700X a good pair for 144 Hz 1080p gaming? Yes, definitely. That's a fantastic combination. The RTX 2060 and our 2060 Super are both very good cards for the for 1080p high refresh rates. You can generally run everything on max settings with those sorts of cards at 1080p and you're generally fine. There are obviously a few exceptions. Red Dead Redemption 2 is probably the main one I can think of, but yeah, on the whole, yes, that's a good combination. Of course, you can always upgrade your CPU later as well, to something like 3rd Gen Ryzen, which would give you an even better performance advantage, and be able to make a little bit more use of the graphics card's raw horsepower, I suppose, especially at 1080p. Ooh, hi Starman, how you doing, man? How's things? Hope you're keeping well. I mean, not really, but I'm alive, so that's the main point. Hello, Goofy. How you doing? I'm a bit of a pickle. I built this PC thinking my teacher who helped me build it had downloaded Windows 10 Home, but he downloaded Pro, which I found out later after. So you want to know if you can downgrade to Home from Pro because you don't want to buy a Pro license. I think that's what you're getting at. That's not something that I know off the top of my head how to do. If Google doesn't give you many helpful results, then it might not be possible. The way around that is to download the Microsoft USB creation tool and reinstall. In theory, the license key should downgrade or upgrade, but there are some things that... Oh, okay, cool. Because I do remember, I want to say it's Windows 7, you had to install the right version of Windows 7. Otherwise, you could not port it. That might have been Pro versus Enterprise or whatever it was versus like Ultimate, but yeah, if it works on yeah, Windows 7 and 8 had to be right. There you go. So yeah, I haven't had to change license keys on Windows 10, if at all. So that's not something I have experience with. It should let you auto downgrade and or upgrade, especially because most of the features that Pro offers are generally just like added stuff that would already be installed anyway. It's just the ability to toggle them on and off is the main differentiating factor there, I think. Yeah. Cheers. So what Zen 2 CPU would upgrade on an Asus X, I assume that's Asus, X370 to pair for future 2060 Super? There are a couple of different options. The 3600X obviously is a downgrade in core count, but an upgrade in single-threaded IPC performance, and therefore you do get a reasonable amount of performance gain going from even a 2700X to a 3600X. The most sensible option for upgrading would be going with a 3700X. That's the sort of direct comparison. I mean, technically the 3800X is the direct comparison, but whatever. The 3700X is the same core count and you still get the extra speed. So yeah, that would be my recommendation if you're going to swap. What graphics card do you have now? Purchasing the key, so I contacted the company and talked to the guy, but I panicked when I was talking to the guy, so I hung up. Yeah, I'm stupid. Nice. The guy I talked to said the reason I was on Pro, and I assume that means you didn't know. Fair. I think Intel still has the core for core advantage. What do you guys think? AMD is just better value right now though, but Intel has higher clocks. So there is a painful number of metrics that we talk about when we talk about CPU performance. We talk about IPC, or instructions per clock. We talk about single-threaded and multi-threaded performance, and a wide array of other metrics. The important thing to keep in mind, I suppose, is the single-threaded and multi-threaded results. Something that Cinebench shows quite well, actually, and that is single-threaded is not exclusively running on one core. A lot of people think single-threaded means, well, you've got 8 or 16 or however many threads on your CPU, and therefore single-threaded means you're loading up one thread fully on the CPU. But the way that Windows, the way that Linux, the way that macOS all do task scheduling means that it's quite uncommon that they actually stay on one core. And so either way, it means that you get currently either the same or more performance, even on single-threaded results, with AMD right now, with a few notable exceptions, especially when you compare price to price. It's there can be a fairly drastic difference. I think in terms of gaming results, there are a few price to price options that are pretty close, but with the way that the platforms are currently moving, right now you have, if you buy an AMD CPU, even if you buy a second gen AMD CPU, for example, you have third generation and what will come up in April, or so, fourth generation Ryzen. And then of course you do have, another socket coming up in the next year to two. But the with Intel, it's kind of unlikely that you will be able to retrofit a 10th generation processor into Z390 motherboards. We have seen a little bit more backwards compatibility in the last couple generations, but there's not a clear upgrade path on Intel right now, whereas on AMD there is. Plus, you get those extra cores, you get, generally speaking, more multi-threaded performance as well. And so, as games get more optimized for cores, it just seems to be a better value for money. So, yeah. I think I missed something. I think I missed a few things. Also, hello, Chris. How you doing, man? LXAM, I assume that's an L. Built my first PC 2 days ago. It's a Ryzen 3600 and a 2060. 16 gigs of RAM, works first time. I was so gassed. Nice, man. Good job. Zaphod, the CPU and GPU time measure how many milliseconds each takes to process each frame. During COD, they're almost always GPU time around 7 milliseconds and CPU time around 5. The GPU time is rising to 9. Right. So, I assume that that's measuring the DirectX API calls. And so the thing is, are you getting stuttering or noticeable lag spikes in game? Are you getting a significant enough performance drop that there is any noticeable difference to you, or is it just the like benchmark numbers? Not at all. Runs smooth besides the dev errors. Okay, so as far as I am aware, then unless there is it's specifically bothering you, I personally wouldn't chase that rabbit too hard. But yeah, I'm not too sure. I'm not a like game engine developer, so I don't have any experience properly with the DirectX APIs and the DirectX graphics pipeline, and that kind of stuff beyond the mild stuff that I was doing like 4 years ago with Present Mod Launcher. So yeah, I'm not sure. Um. Hi, Ryan. No worries, Zaphod. Sorry, I can't help too much more. By the way, just if anyone's watching and I'm you ask a question, I miss it, just repeat it a little bit later. The chat moves up fairly quickly, and I only have a 1080p screen, so there's only 20 comments I can see at any one time. So yeah, please let me out of our basement. It's really dark in here. Nah. But Ryan, so based on your video the other day, are we confirming that I don't need a second gen M.2? A second Gen 4 M.2 is a gaming drive, and that I should stick to a SATA SSD for that. I don't think you need any Gen 4 SSDs right now. Like I said in the video, I talked about the way that the current Gen 4 SSDs are essentially just the same Gen 3 SSDs, but with a slightly higher bandwidth allocation to them. As far as I'm aware, the Phison controller that all of those drives currently have is basically identical to the last generation, or the Gen 3 version of that controller. Pretty much everything is the same. The only difference is that it is capable of, well, it's not capable of saturating the Gen 4 bandwidth available, but it's capable of making use of a bit more of it in certain applications. Long story short, I have a fast Gen 3 SSD in my system. I do not care. I actually have hard drives for my games. I do. The Gen 3 SSD that I have is a WD Black. It's a 1 terabyte drive, and so there are a few games on the Gen 3 drive, or the M.2 SSD, that I play regularly enough to want to have on my on an SSD rather than a hard drive. So here's the thing: GTA 5 is the majority of the loading that I so this is anecdotal evidence based on testing I did years ago. Things may have changed, but I put my I put GTA 5 on an SSD. I actually plugged in a separate SSD at the time because I didn't have big enough drives, and you know, why not? So I put it on a separate drive. It loaded maybe a second faster. The biggest thing with the with GTA 5 is loading the online portion. I don't know why, but yeah, it just does, I'm afraid. I mean, if you can fit it on on your SSD, cool. But if you can't, it's not exactly the end of the world. No worries, Harry. Any advice from a new and I assume upcoming tech channel? So yeah, be interesting. Give people a reason to check you out, other than just you know, message or like jumping in other people's chats. But yeah, like have a like, make good content, make stuff that is interesting, that's unique, and that is not just the same stuff everybody else makes. And most importantly, have fun doing it. Misha, where did you post the PC part picker links? Tris, the AMD 3600X boosts to 4.2, the same as the 4690K, which 4.255 is safe. If I'm getting the Ryzen 5, I'm getting the Ryzen 5 with 5 gig, 50. Come on, brain. 512 gig of ADATA, SX8200 Pro NVMe, 16 gigs of G.Skill 3200 MHz RAM, and a gigabyte B450 board. Nice. So the thing to remember with looking at clock speeds between different processors, especially those between AMD and Intel, and especially those that it's like from very different time periods, is that you cannot directly compare clock speed to clock speed, because the way they process the information is so intrinsically different from each other that 1 gigahertz, a 1 gigahertz, say, AMD CPU could perform hundreds of thousands more calculations per second, or perform hundreds of % better than the Intel one that also runs at 1 gigahertz, because they operate so differently. I'm not saying that's the actual case, I'm just explaining. So the 4690K is on a much larger process node. And like I said, just the whole architecture is completely different. And so you can't directly compare between the two. That £1,000 budget I was on about, will it be good enough for 1440p 141st gaming? So that is definitely a tougher challenge. A 2060 Super is still a good card for 1440p. I would generally say it's more of a 60 hertz kind of application, but it's certainly not a bad card. If you don't mind turning down some settings, you can get very playable experience on a 2060 Super, and if you can stretch it to say a 5600 or a 5700 XT from AMD, then you're in the ballpark. So yeah. Libyan, I bought the AOC 24 GTU and it's amazing. Nice. I'm glad you like it. It's a fantastic monitor. It's the most popular monitor that people are checking out on my Amazon links by far, actually. So yeah, nice one. I'm glad you like it. 5700 XT for 1440p. Yeah. Are you gonna pre-order a PS5? Honestly, no. I have a very capable gaming PC, and beyond perhaps exclusive console exclusives, consoles currently offer me nothing that I can't get on my PC. So yeah. Misha, why can't I send the link? YouTube just doesn't let you post links in the YouTube chat. It just hard blocks them. We don't even get to have the option of allowing them. It just effectively flags it as spam and deletes it immediately, unless you're a mod, and then you can post links, as Ish is kindly pointing out. I hate my life. Is the 5700 XT better than the 2070 Super? As Chris says, no. It is. I'm actually going to be doing a video comparing the two fairly shortly to show you the difference. But yeah, the short answer is no. Ryzen, nice. They could, and you literally complained it was broken. But yeah. Zaphod, have you experienced any of the Radeon driver issues or had to deal with any of them? One, no. Two, I don't run an AMD GPU in my main PC. I run GTX 1080 Ti. And so I don't have regular experience with AMD's latest drivers. I do have experience with the latest drivers in that I've been using them for the 5600 XT, which might be that one. Actually, it might still be upstairs. I have used them. I have not had issues with them. I'm actually going to be getting a system with a 2060 Super in it to do a comparison between the 2060 Super and the 5600 XT. And so in that case, I will be reinstalling the latest AMD driver. I will also be doing a comparison, like I said, of the 5700 XT to the 2070 Super. So again, I'll have a play with them. But the long story short is that no, I don't have, I haven't had any AMD driver issues since they launched the Crimson driver, and it was like super early access. That's the level of how long it's been since I've personally had an issue with AMD drivers. But like I said, I don't use them on my main PC, and therefore I don't have the same experience that you would necessarily. um, Misha, your system is a Ryzen 3600, a B450 Tomahawk Max, 16 gigs of Corsair Vengeance LPX 3600 MHz. Cool. 2 terabyte Seagate Barracuda, ADATA SX 8200 Pro, RTX 2070 Super. Yeah, the only thing that I might mention is that the Ryzen 5 3600 comes with a much smaller stock cooler, and while it is capable enough, if you can spare a tiny bit of budget, the Arctic Freezer 34 Esports Duo is about £30, dollars, whatever, and is fantastic. It will keep your chip cooler. It will let you overclock it if you want to, and yeah. Ryan, bear in mind he's probably not in the UK. In fact, it's pcpartpicker.nl or nl.pcpartpicker. So he is not in the UK, and therefore pricing that you found doesn't necessarily apply to him. I still have €72 to spend, so I can do that. Nice, cool. I have a 3600X, 3600 with an Arctic Freezer 34 Esports Duo. Nice. Oh. Hello, Spencer. How you doing? And how Rithing? And hi thing. How you doing? Oh god, my back hurts a lot. Ooh. I'm pushing 3 24-inch 1080p's on a 1080. Is it worth looking for a new card? So possibly. I would. What sort of FPS are you getting in the games you play? Is probably the main question, right? Spencer, I failed my CCNA on Monday, so a bit of a downer. I've got my retest tomorrow morning. Anxiety kicking in. Nice. I'm glad that you thought the best place to solve your anxiety is on my stream. Thanks. Best of luck, man. I hope it goes well. Hope all is good. I bought the Deepcool Gamax GTBK and I'm loving it. Nice. Fair. Zaphod, the AMD drivers seem to be hit or miss, folks. Either it's tons of issues or none at all. Yeah, fair. I will. Like I said, if I get any, I will let you know. If I get any, I might do a video on it. I'll see. Depends on what the issue is and how you fix it. My assumption is that the way you fix it is to DDU, like nuke the driver and then reinstall it, which only takes, I don't know, 20 minutes and a restart. So if that solves the problem, cool. But yeah, I'll see if I get anything, any issues when I am messing around with the 5600 XT and the 5700 XTs in the coming weeks or so. Go for it, Ryzen. Interesting, the 4690K is better than 3600. I'll keep in mind the clock speeds can't be compared between both CPUs. What is best to compare AMD? What is best, I assume, best way to compare AMD Ryzen processors with the current market? So the main thing is benchmark results. So it doesn't really matter how they go about doing it. Like, it doesn't really matter how they go about getting the results. It's more about the results you do get. And so take a look at the appropriate benchmark results for what you want to do. If it's gaming results, look at gaming results, obviously with the same graphics card and all that jazz. But take a look at the if you do more computational stuff, if you do 3D modeling or whatever, look at Blender, look at whatever programs you use, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I'm gonna let Ryzen finish his story. um, for streaming, a Ryzen 2700X versus a 3600 non-X. So that's kind of a tough one. Because obviously with the 2700X you get more cores and threads, but with the 3600 you get better single-threaded performance. Honestly, I mean, so actually, what graphics card do you use with that, or what graphics card would you be using with those systems? I accidentally touched some of the thermal paste on the stock cooler, have it as a backup cooler, and washed hands 3 times. Thought, where's the little paper you need to peel it off? Yeah, yeah. Thermal paste. I haven't been playing with any today, but that desk mat is absolutely covered. Yeah. A GTX 1660 Ti. Cool. So, I think you'll have to check out exact benchmark numbers. I'm only going off results that I remember off the top of my head and the kind of balancing act that plays. I think that one, you can use the NVENC encoder in the GTX 1660 Ti. It's a very good encoder that takes very little performance loss or performance hit while using it, and still gives you pretty good quality from your stream. In terms of the CPU choice, if you were to exclusively use the NVENC encoder, I think, and I could be wrong, please someone check, the 3600 non-X still might be a better option because you will get more FPS and you'll still have 2 cores, 4 threads, generally speaking, free to handle the streaming. With that said, I think the 2700X and the 3600, because they are quite far apart in terms of their kind of product stack placements, the 3600 is actually quite underclocked, and the 2700X is quite, kind of overclocked by comparison. And so I'm actually not too sure how that performance stacks up. I do, if I remember correctly, I think the 3600 would still beat it, but by how much, I'm not sure. Ba 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 ba. My PC suddenly turned off out of nowhere when I boot it up again. BIOS was reset and everything was at stock RAM CPU clock speeds, but it turned off again. What's the problem? So the what system, what motherboard do you have and how new is it? There you go. That was the question I was trying to ask. Luca, you said you can only DDU a number of times before Windows says no, and you got to clean install. So that PC has been DDU'd many a time and is still fine. I don't know whether that's number of times you can DDU in a row or not, but yeah. Nice one, Ish. Misha, your link on Newegg is to Trident Z RAM. So are you questioning whether you should go with that, or like, are you questioning which one you should go with? Because the main differentiating factor, I'm going to guess, is the cache latency. No, they're all the same. Then I'm not too sure what the actual difference is. Because the cache latencies are the same, and the timing's the same clock speeds. Yeah, I don't know. I'd go for the one that says for AMD and is £99 or dollars. Yeah, not sure. I really don't know. Hello, Chris H. How you doing? X570 and a 3700X. So my guess there would be faulty motherboard. The reason I asked how old the system was is because if the little battery on your motherboard dies, that can have similar effects. And so that was the you know train of thought I was heading on. Um, with that said, yeah, I'd probably say faulty motherboard. Um, if it was only your system restarting on its own, then there could be you could potentially point the finger at the power supply or the CPU. For example, if the CPU is overheating for some reason, that can cause it to turn off. But the fact that the BIOS is specifically resetting as well, I would say faulty motherboard, and I would return it and get a replacement. Why are you guys still underrated? um, Not so good. I bought a Define S2 the day Fractal released the Define 7. Nice, yeah, I did see that. I did see that indeed. Um, Unfortunate, definitely. Um, but I mean the S2 is still great, so there's that. Ryzen, so the missus has a 2008 MacBook Pro. When we turn it on, or when we try and turn it on, the light flashes on, but it doesn't fire up. But if you fill a hot water bottle up and leave it sitting on top of the water bottle for 10 minutes or so, it will fire up. So the answer there is that one of the surface mount components that is on the motherboard is either dying or dead, and is if you heat it up, that changes the characteristics of the component. If I had to guess, it's probably a resistor, um, but it's probably something along the lines of one of the resistors or capacitor, like surface mount resistors or capacitors that are on the um, power circuitry, power delivery, potentially VRMs, um, is faulty. And when you heat it up, that changes the characteristics that allows it to start working. The long story short is that unless you want to go through, take the thing apart and go through and look at every single surface mount component, I would call it dead. I would take all of the sensitive data that's on there off there as soon as possible. Make sure you have backups of everything, and then either buy a new motherboard, which is expensive for that kind of machine, or get a new system, I'm afraid. 6 months old and already faulty, not nice gigabytes. Yeah, I'm afraid. Um, I can't really say anything else, I'm afraid. um, is a 280 45mm rad okay for dual 2080 supers and a 9700K? So is a 280 or dual 140mm 45mm thick rad okay for two 2070 supers and a 9700K? So I do have a question to answer first. Why two 2070 supers? Because for that kind of money, you can buy reference 2080 Ti's. So yeah, the long story short is that a single, even thick, 280mm rad is probably on the low side. The it's probably serviceable, certainly. Super nice. So it's probably serviceable if you can get a even just like a 120 mil to go on the back, or a thin 240 or 280 to go up the top or at the front, for example. That could be a pretty significant temperature improvement. It depends if you're doing hardline or soft tubing as well, because with soft tubing it's a lot easier to drain your loop, go back and add another radiator later, whereas for hardline tubing, it's just a massive pain in the ass, full stop. But it's also a lot more complicated to try and go back and add anything else to your loop. What I would mention just with the dual 2070 Supers is that, in my experience, so one, I'm actually kind of surprised that NVIDIA even still does SLI. um, but while I very much agree with you, SLI does look badass. It is still the best way to make a gaming PC look like elite. I worry that you would be spending quite a lot of money for next to no performance. SLI, even in its heyday, was hit or miss, and now is not its heyday. Is all I'll say. Is 1822 2240 latency latency good or slow? So that's CAS 18. It's certainly not bad. It's a pretty decent timing for 3600 megahertz. If you could get CAS latency 16, that would be better, but it's not a significant be all end all difference. Does Nvidia still do SLI? They disabled it on the 60 class of cards. Wait, didn't they disable it on the 2070 class of cards as well? Because I'm pretty sure the 2070 doesn't have the SLI fingers anymore. It does? Are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure that it. Oh, the super. Right. Okay. Yeah. Fair. Okay. Yeah. Have you ever used the Ryzen DRAM calculator? Once or twice. I don't really partake in overclocking all that much, so I don't really. It's not a tool I use myself, is what I'm trying to say. Oh, they need the HD bridge thingy. Yes. Yeah, they still do. I think AMD's fully killed off Crossfire. But yeah. I used Trident Z3000 and it wasn't the QLC. It wasn't on the QLC list and definitely had some issues. Ah, okay, fair. Yeah. I mean, what's interesting is that I have quite a selection of RAM here. Some of it's older than Ryzen is, and the vast majority of it still works fine, which I found kind of interesting. But yeah, fair play if you've been able to make use of it and get some issues, then yeah. Honestly, don't we all need an HD bridge thingy? Definitely, definitely. I thought AMD did Crossfire over the main bus, not that it's any good. So they did for the RX 470 and I think even for 480 and 580 series, but I think when Vega rolled around and or definitely Navi, they suspended support because it was kind of pointless. Of course, they do have their dual GPU cards in the new Mac Pro, but that's not for gaming. Those are two distinct compute units that get used for compute and technically graphics, but we don't talk about those. Hello, my gamers. Hello, Dax. How you doing? Yeah. While we're awaiting further comments and questions, um, in terms of videos that are coming out, tomorrow is pretty interesting. There is the glorious Model D mouse. It's actually one that's been requested a bit. It is a 69-gram mouse. Nice. Um, well, it's actually a sub 69-gram mouse. They claim that it's 68 or 67, depending on where you look. Um, but they made one marketing image that said 69, and I ran with it. Um, so that's tomorrow. It's actually kind of interesting. Monday is the MPOW headset, the like Amazon's Choice stupidly cheap gaming headset, which also is pretty interesting. I'll be interested to see what you think of that. And then Wednesday's video is actually probably gonna be the 5600X versus 2060 Super. It was going to be the 5700X versus the 2070 Super, but those cards haven't arrived yet, and the 2060 Super system is turning up tomorrow. So yeah, that's that. But yeah, that's next week's, well, the next week until streams videos. So make sure you check them out and all that jazz. Also, for those of you who saw it, what do you think of the do you need a Gen 4 NVMe SSD video? Obviously, I know Ish saw it because he suggested using Gen 4 NVMe SSDs as window scrapers. GG. No worries, Tectone 5. Catch you there. I can get cast latency 16 for 40 euros more. I don't think it's worth 40 euros difference, honestly. So, yeah, I'd stick with CL18. There, yeah. Dax got his Ryzen 5 3600 and RX 5700 and 16 gigs of 3600 MHz CL19 RAM up and running. Nice one. Glad that it's working for ya. So yeah, I had an interesting product turn up today that I tested out this morning, and it didn't work, which is always good. It's a car OBD. It's not an OBD reader. It's like a smart health thing. Basically, they have a like giveaway running right now where they've got 1 million units to ship out, and it's free. You pay, I think it's like $4 for shipping to the UK, which is insane. But yeah, so it's a free device that you pay for shipping for, and supposedly it checks through your car and all that jazz. You can use their app for like fuel eco saving kind of stuff, or to see live information if you want to, see your turbo boost pressure while you're driving along the road. But yeah, it's I plugged it in, so I have a load of OBD2 readers anyway. In fact, one of them is on the floor down there. You can see the red bit. Yeah. But I have a very similar wireless one that works fine. I checked. The other one that I'm supposedly, meant to be taking a look at doesn't. And so yeah, I'm awaiting some technical support to see what's up. Laptops Direct decided not to give me my RAM yet. Nice. Do you know who's shipping it? Like what the courier is? Dax moving from my i3 4160 and a GTX 750 Ti. Nice. I can finally play games at more than 20 FPS with no slideshow stutter. Nice one. That sort of upgrade is a pretty big deal. It's it's a very nice feeling to have it all working and to actually be playing, you know, games pretty well. So yeah. Lambo UK, will there be a lot of difference in speed with NVMe in M.2 slot or in a PCIe mounting card? So as long as well, the short answer is no. The longer answer is it depends on what M.2 slot and or what PCIe slot you put it in. So most motherboards on both Intel, actually no, most motherboards on AMD, the top M.2 slot goes directly to the CPU. It shares its lanes with nothing else, and so you get the full bandwidth available of that drive, which is fantastic, by the way. And then if you have any other M.2 slots, they are routed through the chipset, which shares a bus with, well, the chipset itself, but also SATA, some USB, stuff like your Ethernet. All of that is normally routed through the chipset. And so you do get a slight reduction in speed. If you were to use a PCIe add-in card, if you put that in the slot that shares its lanes with your graphics card, you could half your graphics card lanes while still while giving 8 lanes to your PCIe add-in card. Obviously, they only use 4 for NVMe SSDs, and so if you're on an Intel board, technically you might be able to see a slight performance improvement, but honestly, long story short, is it still doesn't matter. It still doesn't make that much of a difference. It's still not that much of a big deal. So yeah. An RTX 2070 or a 1080 Ti. So honestly, I don't remember the benchmark results between the two, but I think a 2070 is probably. I mean, actually, how much is a 1080 Ti? Because I'm currently running one at 4040p 140 Hz and I have no problems. So yeah. I pushed a reduced dataset to our compute server and got an IN321901 error. Does anybody know what the heck that is? I'm afraid I don't. I'm learning, you know, web development, database management, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I'm not that far in yet. Oh, my back hurts. Oh. Um, ish. They used Yodel. Apparently packed them all in one box, but the memory's not in there. So I complained. They've been fobbing me off all week, saying it's coming separately, but no tracking number. So Yodel are the worst. Hermes is a close second, but Yodel is very much the worst. So honestly, I'm surprised you got anything from Yodel. Brutally honest. Literally every parcel I've ever had from Yodel has had some problem with it. Whether they left £1,000 worth of gaming PC components out on my doorstep in the rain for 6 hours, and when I say on my doorstep, I mean like massive box, like literally box this size on a very open doorstep with, you know, it's not like there was, you know, fencing or anything to hide, just there. I've had stuff like packages that have been very clearly broken into. I've had stuff that's been like basically ran over. I've had a driver who knocked on the door and then got back in his car quicker than I could walk from here to just that door and drove off saying, sorry, we missed you. And so much more. Oh. No, like, just, like, on my doorstep, and my doorstep was on a road with no cover between the doorstep and the door. Like, and people walk down that street quite a lot. Nice. And which one is better, the MSI Tomahawk Max or the B450F Strix? So the Tomahawk Max is the only board that I think is guaranteed to have Gen 3 Ryzen support out of the box, and so probably that one. But I might have reviewed the B450F Strix, possibly, so maybe check the channel. Yeah, Hermes is a close second. I have a fantastic story I've told about before, but yeah, it's funny. With that said, that is our usual hour. Thank you guys for kicking it with me. And like I said, videos tomorrow, Monday, and Wednesday, and then stream next week. So stick around. Yeah, have a great week. Have a great weekend. We'll see you. Yeah, next week. Yes, Jimmy, that's a good system.